When you have a meeting in English for work, do you find yourself being very quiet? Do you usually kind of hide in the background? Do you let other people talk the whole time? How do you control a meeting in English without talking too much? That's what we're going to talk about in today's lesson. Hello everybody, my name's Mitch and this is my YouTube channel, Mitch's 미친 영어 coaching, here to give you some good tips for speaking English in business, in a professional setting, or in regular conversation, things that will help you to speak up more and more confidently in English. Okay, so I'm going to give you some tips today specifically about meetings, having meetings. So when you're in a meeting, how do you speak up? How do you lead the meeting, or at least contribute to the meeting without talking too much or without talking too little? Okay, this is usually the problem. Most of my students, almost all of my students, the problem is usually not talking too much. The problem is talking too little. And they say, I just can't speak up in the meeting. I can't find the words. I can't speak fast enough. The other people cut me off. This is a problem that many Korean students have, many Korean professionals have when they're in the workplace, especially with native English speakers. How can I speak up? How can I contribute to the meeting? Okay, so today I'm going to talk about that. Now, sometimes you don't want to talk too much, okay, but I'll give you some relief, okay? I'll give you something to make you relax. The good news is, there's good news. Are you ready for this? The good news is professional leaders don't talk too much anyway, okay? Professional leaders, even native English speakers, they can lead a meeting by speaking less. Highly effective global executives, leaders, business people, they actually speak less. They lead meetings by listening actively and then asking strategic questions and then summarizing other people's points. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video today. I'm going to give you these steps to help you in your next meeting. You don't have to speak a lot, okay? And a lot of my students, their brain kind of freezes because they feel like they have to speak a lot. They feel like they have to contribute a lot. But it's not exactly true, okay? There is a way to contribute to the meeting, and there's actually a way to lead the meeting, or at least steer it in the direction that you want it to go without feeling all of that pressure to speak a lot, okay? And I'm going to teach you those steps here. And by the end of this video, it's going to make sense. So first, there's 4 active listening strategies that will hold your authority in the meeting. So what we're really talking about in this video is active listening. So the first strategy, this is called the mirroring technique. The mirroring technique, because you're going to listen to the other person in the meeting and you're going to mirror them a little bit. You're going to validate the other person's input, and that will show that you're in control of the discussion, okay? In other words, someone says something in the meeting, don't just say, okay, next person, or okay, I want to speak now. First, before you do that, validate them. Say, I think that's a good point. If I understand you correctly, you're suggesting that we focus on this thing, right? If I understand you correctly, you're suggesting that we focus on the Q3 timeline. Is that right? Okay. So in other words, I'm asking them to clarify based on what I think they said in the meeting. Okay, so that is a good strategy when someone else is talking, but you want to also speak next. You want to speak next. So then someone's talking, you can just say, oh, okay, that's a good point. If I understand you correctly, if I'm hearing you correctly, you can say that too, you're suggesting this, right? And then they say, yeah, that's right. That's what I'm talking about. And then you can give your opinion next. It's a natural way to kind of build off of someone else's comments and then get your comments in there as well. And you're in the process, you're mirroring them, you're validating what they said, so they feel good and everybody feels like you're participating because you're listening well, because you mirrored them. So by clarifying what they said and by mirroring them and saying, I understand you, or if I understand you correctly, if I'm hearing you right, you're really doing many things at one time. First of all, you're validating that person so they feel good. You're telling everybody that you're an active listener and you're listening, you're participating, and you're giving yourself kind of we call a springboard to jump into your opinion. Now you can share what you want to say. okay, rather than interrupting very rudely or awkwardly. It's a natural way to kind of build on their point and move on to your point. Okay, so that's a very good strategy. Strategy 1 is the mirroring technique. Strategy 2, we'll call this the strategic interjection. Okay, you're going to grab the steering wheel of the meeting when someone's taking too long, but you don't want to sound rude. Okay, so without sounding rude, you're going to take back control of the meeting, or at least of the discussion, and from someone, because some people, they just talk and talk and talk, and they're talking too long, but the meeting, you only have so much time. And if you want to share your opinion, they need to shut up, right? But you can't say shut up. That's not nice. So here's a better way. Say it like this. Oh, that's a very interesting point. Let me jump in here and connect this back to our budget. Connect this back to what we were talking about. Okay, so in other words, you want to steer the conversation back to this topic, the budget, for example, and they're talking about something unrelated to that, but today's meeting, or at least this part of the discussion, is about the budget. So we got to get back here. Okay, so in a polite way, just validate them first, like we practiced in the first strategy. Say, that's a very interesting point. I like that. That's a good point. Now, let me just jump in here and connect this back to our budget. Okay, now everybody's attention is back to the main topic. That person doesn't feel like, they don't feel bad. They feel probably pretty good because you said, oh, that's an interesting point. That's a good point. I like that point. But you steered it back to the main topic in a very natural and friendly and professional way. Okay, so that is what we'll call the strategic intervention. That's strategy 2. Okay, now let's go to strategy 3. Are you ready for this? We'll call this the redirect. Redirect, okay? If you're leading the meeting, or if you're trying to lead the discussion, you got to keep yourself in the center of the conversation, okay? But you don't want to talk the whole time either. So a good way to what we call delegate the speaking load. This means you're going to let other people speak, but you, as the leader, you're the facilitator, we call that, the leading the meeting. You can choose who you want to speak about certain things, rather than there's the one guy who just keeps talking and talking and talking. We don't want to give it back to him. He's going to keep the meeting off track. So, as the leader, I also don't want to speak the whole time. So I can redirect to certain people that I know will have a good thing to say for this discussion. And some people, they're also very shy and they don't speak up. So it's good to call on somebody and say like this. You could say, okay, that's a valid point. That's a valid concern. Sarah, I'd love to get your input on this from the design perspective. Okay, in this example, Sarah is the designer. So I'm not a designer. This person's not a designer. Sarah's the expert. Let's give it to her. Let her talk. Okay. Or this guy over here, he's an engineer, right? So he's going to give us the engineering perspective. You can ask him. Or this person's the finance person. So whatever it is you're talking about, if there's somebody who has or maybe the project manager, obviously they need to speak up. So if there's somebody who has a good perspective on the topic, just hand it over to them and say, would you give us your input here? I'd love to get your input. Could you share your thoughts about this with everybody? And that way, you seem very generous because you're giving the floor to other people so they can speak. You're not taking up the whole time speaking because then people don't listen. Okay, and you're validating other people who maybe they're not so willing to speak up, but they need a little push, a friendly push to speak up in the meeting. And the best thing is you're controlling who's speaking. You're controlling who's speaking. And so you can choose the people who are right for this topic to talk about it. Like in this case, Sarah, she's the designer. We need her input. We need her to talk. So you're leading that. You're kind of orchestrating, like a conductor in the orchestra. They conduct the orchestra. You're kind of doing that in the meeting, if you're leading the meeting. Now, if you're not leading the meeting, probably you can hold off on this, but you can still do that even if you're not the leader of the meeting. In the discussion, if you're talking about something, but there's part of your boss says, what do you think about this? and then you start talking about your opinion, but there's some things you're not really sure about or you're not qualified, but the other person is, then you can do this strategy. You just hand it off, redirect to the other person. You say like, you know what, this part I'm not exactly sure about. I'm probably not the best person to speak on this. So let's hear what this person has to say about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, that's a good strategy too. It's called the redirect strategy. And then strategy number 4, the synthesis wrap up. Wrap up means finishing it up, summarizing, right? You're going to end the discussion by being the one who summarizes the next steps. Okay, you're cementing your leadership presence here. You're basically kind of showing everybody that you're listening, you're active, you're participating, and then you're concerned about the next steps, the action points. Because nobody likes to leave a meeting and then have nothing. What are we going to do? Nobody knows what they're doing, what's happening. So here's a good phrase in this case. You can say, okay, you know what? This has been a good meeting. To wrap things up, let's target Friday for the first draft, and we'll touch base next Monday. Or something like that. Like, to wrap things up, that means, let's just summarize this, let's finish this. Let's do this by this time and this date. And I'll do this, and you do that, and you do that. You can even assign that if you're leading the meeting. Now, again, if you're not leading the meeting, your boss is leading the meeting, that's too much. This step you should only do if you're the actual leader of the meeting, okay? But if let's say you're talking about your project, you're the project manager for this part, and you're in charge of this discussion in the meeting, then you could do the same thing. You could say, okay, so to wrap up this discussion before we continue the meeting, I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're going to do this by this time. We're going to do this by this time. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. Okay? Everybody understand that? And then you can give it back to the boss or whoever's actually leading the meeting. Okay, so you can still use these strategies even if you're not leading the meeting, not for the overall meeting, but for your part of the discussion. These phrases that I'm teaching you here will help you with that. Okay, you don't need to have a perfect vocabulary to lead a meeting or control a discussion, to contribute. You just need to use these 4 strategies at the proper time. Use some of those phrases that I taught you in this video, practice them, and in your next meeting, you can speak up, and you can, through active listening, you can help to facilitate the meeting and the discussion in a much, much more productive way, in a way that makes you look very, very good, and you look like a good leader, okay, if you employ these strategies. All right, everybody, so try those out. Let me know in the comments if they worked in your next meeting. If you want to know more tips about these kind of things, meeting and business English, I have an online course on my website at mitchinenglishcoach.com. If you go there, there's an online course you can sign up for that has a lot of vocabulary and phrases like this for doing meetings, for negotiating, for emails, all the things we do in business. So sign up for that course. It's just 5 video lessons, and there's a lot of activities for each lesson to help you really learn those phrases and be able to use them in your daily life at work, in business, when you're doing international and global business. They'll be useful. Check it out at my website, and I'll see you in the next video.